All right. Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the New Beginnings podcast with Jay Jackson. You are here with me, Jay Jackson, and we are in another session of our celebration of conversation. Please remember that you can follow the New Beginnings podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever it is that you like to stream your podcast for listening or even watching the podcast. You can find the New Beginnings podcast. So, on today, as we get into the celebration of conversation, if you have watched this is your first time watching the podcast, you know there is a section where I like to bring people along and just have very heartfelt, impactful, and positive conversations. These are people that I could have went to high school with, college with, people I've met, people that have been introduced to me, people through the proper networks that people have said, hey, you should have this person on your show. And we begin to talk about their life, or we talk about other subjects, but it's about having a conversation because conversations are so powerful. Conversations are so impactful. It's where we begin to learn about each other, our likes, our differences, but being able to appreciate that through the power of conversation. So my guest on today is a young lady, and I'm going to call her young. We're about the same age. I don't forget who's older. I want to say she is, but we're both young. I met her at Blackburn College in 2000. We came in as the minority at that school for sure. And I have watched her life, all of the things that she's done, things she's accomplished. And I thought she would be a great guest to bring on to this podcast just to have a wonderful conversation and to catch up. So at this time, I present to some and introduce to others Miss Deirdre Liddell. Deirdre, thank you for being a part of the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So people have heard me enough. We're finna get into you and we're finna find out about why you are a guest on the podcast. So the first question I would like to ask you is who is Deirdre Liddell? Who is she? What is she about? What is her origin story? So if you could just tell us a little bit about you.
All right. Well, I'm from a small town. So from a small town with big dreams. Did pretty well, in regards to making some transitions in life, when curveballs hit, different things like that, being able to ride the wave and pivot through life, and still maintain who I am as a person. And then also, continue with the goals, your short term goals, your long term goals, and just being able to be the person that I needed as a child, and be that person to other kids, that other kids need now. So, I think as a kid, growing up as a teenager, I fought being a role model to others. And then as I grew
Mm,
older, I was, I think I was forced or pushed into that, because that's traditionally who I was supposed to be. So it's something that I didn't know before. It's something that I fought before, but then now, as I work with young people, as I work with other people that look like me, as I work with young professionals coming in, I try to make sure that I am everything that they need in order to be successful and to grow them, because coming up, there were some things that I needed, especially being a young professional, that I didn't necessarily get. So I just try to fill that void and make sure that I take care of people.
wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And before I get into my next question, because you just made a profound statement for my ears that you did not want to be a role model. And we're definitely going to talk about your career and what you do with young people. But what made what at I guess at that time, what would make you think that you couldn't be a role model? Because sometimes I believe when we talk about role models, some
Mhm.
people know they're role models.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're just a role model about how we live our lives, how we exemplify ourselves. But why did you think you didn't fit what the typical mold of a role model could, or what maybe society labels a role model should be?
I just believe that I was fighting with myself, right? So growing up, just trying to figure out who I was as a person, figuring out what things would irritate me and different things like that. The things that I wanted, the things that I didn't want, what path I was going to take. So I
Mhm.
think younger, I was really more confused about what path to take and where my life was really heading. So, I was just kind of all over the place as a teenager. I knew that I loved sports. I knew that I had to go to school, or I had to go to the military, or I had to do something, right? So a lot of times as Black kids, we're told we have to go to college, but we don't know what that means for us, right? We know what high school means. We
Mhm.
know what junior high, middle school means. We know what living in our family's house means, right? But when we get ready to take that next step into life, that's the unknown. It's a journey that we have to take by ourselves. Even though our families are in the background, but ultimately it's up to us to make it happen. And we're just kind of given the basics of what to do, but not necessarily how to do it. So in trying to figure it out, I had, a younger cousin, and my aunt kept saying, "Hey, I need you to be her role model. I need you to, talk to her. I need you to do all these different things." And I was like, I'm trying to figure it out too. I never said that. What I said was yes, ma'am, because that's what you're supposed to say, in my
Mhm.
household. But I definitely didn't want to be it, because I just didn't know where my path was going to actually lead, because I was just kind of all over the place with no real plan, just knowing that there were certain things that I had to do and not necessarily what those things look like.
No, and that's a great statement. Thank you for giving us more to that question because
Mhm.
I was in that same boat and
Yeah.
I didn't want to be a role model. I just wanted to be me, enjoy myself. But like you said, going especially when you transition from high school to college, I had no example, didn't know nothing. Thank God for my mom, but she told me this is a part of my life that I can't tell you what it's going to be like because I didn't go through what you're finna go through. So how do you
Mhm.
navigate that? And then I had younger nieces and nephews and younger people that were looking at me, but how can I be a role model when I have no idea what I'm doing? I don't know if I'm going to make it through this. I don't know if I'm going to be successful at this. I know I have to go because what I want to do in life is going to take me, like you said, college. There's only so many choices: college, military, or work. But I have to be this role model that I haven't had maybe the proper example in front of me to see how to model this. So how can I be a model when I've had no model in front of me as well? So that was, if you were just speaking and talking, I was just sitting here like, wow, I know exactly what that feels like. And if we would have known then what we know now, back at that time. But yeah, we, we probably could have done a lot better, even made better choices in that. But it's crazy that type of responsibility can get put on us as young people. Like you said, when you have either younger siblings, cousins, nieces, nephews, and people are telling you, "I need you to be this," but how can I be something that nobody showed me how to be? How? Like, how can I figure this out? How can I
And,
be
first
successful? How can I?
generation.
What if I fail?
Yeah. Yeah. What if I fail? And, just I was first generation college grad, I just knew that, in high school, I was hanging out with my friends. I was having a great
Hmm.
time hanging out with my friends. When it was time to leave home, yeah, I was definitely ready to leave home, because I had kind of outgrew some of the things in that space. And I think everybody else was ready for me to leave as well, but I still didn't know what that looked like.
Wow. That's good.
Yeah.
All right, so we got to move on to other stuff, but I swear we could stay right there because there's so much within that to talk about. But as you were transitioning high school to college, so we met at Blackburn. You
Uh-huh.
chose Blackburn College as your college. But then I think was it a year or 2 years that you left?
Yeah. And, let me say this. I didn't choose Blackburn. My parents chose Blackburn for me. I went on my college visit, and after we went on the visit, I said, I'm just gonna go home and I'm gonna sign up for the Air Force. And my mom was like, "Nope, you're going here. They're giving you some money to play
Wow.
basketball. This is where you're gonna go." So, when I got there, I wasn't necessarily focused on staying. So, first couple weeks, I had trouble making friends, different things like that, because I was, I realized that once I got out on my own, I was a little bit more of an introvert than I knew, right? Leaving your hometown from knowing everyone and everyone knowing you, because I'm, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
I'm from a very small town where everyone knows everyone. To going to a college where you're having to learn people, meet people. You have a roommate, you have no clue, who you're going to be rooming with, different things like that. Going from playing basketball to people that you grew up with, you started off playing little league ball with, um, to AAU and different things like that. Now you're on a totally different
Mm-hmm.
basketball team, with people that you don't know. So it became me being a little fish in a little bit bigger pond, but like a brand new pond.
Right.
So when I got there, it was a little struggle in the beginning, but after that it was great. Like, I started meeting people, made some lifelong friends, definitely, that I love, adore, and cherish. Those friendships are definitely something that I don't regret Blackburn at all, from just from the friendships and different things that I've made. So yeah, so end up going. I went to play basketball. Never saw the court, simply because number one, I did not like Blackburn at all. First time I really outwardly saw racism and felt racism, right? So we learned about racism a lot, especially because my parents are from Mississippi. So we would have like small talks and different things like that. But then once I got to Carlinville, I was able to witness it and actually experience it for myself. We were safe when we were on campus. When we weren't on campus, weird things happened. And that was a problem for me, on top of, some of the other things. Like you said, we were definitely the minority
Mm-hmm.
there. I mean, on campus, but in the town, um, the town could definitely be interesting for us. So with that, I started looking for different places. At one point, first couple months, I called my mom and I was like, "Look, I done packed my whole room up. Y'all can come on and come on and get me." And they were like, my mom was like, "You better unpack everything because you're staying." Um, so I stayed at Blackburn a year and a semester. No, was it a year? Yep, a year and one semester. I stayed at
Mm-hmm.
Blackburn. Um, and September 11th happened. So I had a plan to transfer, like, or to leave, not to transfer. I had a meeting with the recruiter, Air Force recruiter. And the same week, I had a meeting at the end of the week, and the same week 9/11 happened. And
Wow.
yeah, and that changed, the trajectory of what I thought my plans were going to be. So from then, I had to make some changes. So I actually went home and ended up going to the junior college for a semester in the summer. And then from there, I transferred to SIUE, where I found my home. So
Oh, that's great. You found your
yeah,
home, and
yeah,
and this is as I talk to my associates, friends, and those of us that came in at Blackburn together, it was because a nice group of us came in the year 2000 when we
uh-huh,
graduated from high school, and with all of us that came in together, five of us, the minority, us African Americans, men
hmm,
and women, graduated in 2004.
yeah,
And many of us that came in, those that transferred to left, went to other schools, got
mhm,
their degrees. They did graduate and get out of college. But I always look back at that how do we, it's about a good 40 of us maybe.
uh-huh,
And five of us
yeah,
endured Harlanville. You brought up racism, something that
hmm,
I don't think is talked about enough, because I understand that too in town, and even was my senior year. There was an incident where we dealt with it on campus for
Mm.
the first time. That was, like I said, this is about you, but you brought it up.
Yeah.
We don't to talk about it. Like I saw it in town,
Hmm.
and my mother was from Mississippi as well. So we had those conversations about the world I'm finna go into. And I was blessed to go to a school. I was in the south suburb of Chicago, so there was a lot of diversity in my school. So I grew up around a lot of different cultures and diversities. But going to college and being that minority like that was a shock. So you saw it in town, but it's around my senior year, there was a racial slur that was said to another African American student by a Caucasian student where they called them the N word. And I was the RA. It happened on my dorm. I was
Hmm.
there, heard it, experienced it. And the wave is sent through the campus to where they had to shut the campus down and had a town meeting. Um, I'm not gonna sit here and say I handled it the best. It was hard because we're dealing with this. We're trying to come together with this. So we got this group of African Americans that are there, but then I'm on my way out. So it's like I feel y'all pain, but how hard do I fight? Because I'm finna graduate in a couple of months. So you all got to build this culture that this is not going to be tolerated. And they're like, Jermaine, you got to be a part of it. I get
Yeah.
it, but I'm leaving. And I had other life circumstances going on. It was offensive. It was wrong, but it was like, how hard do you fight in this? So that was the first time when racism was just really in my face like that. Had never experienced it on that level. Never thought I would experience it like that. Some things that my mother told me about. This is what you may be called. No, not in this generation, man. They know better. They're not going to do that. But went through it, and it wasn't. My immediate reaction was like, "This is real right now.
Hmm.
This ain't the '60s. Ain't the '50s. You, how dare you? Like, we could fight back.
Yeah.
This ain't Dr. King's era. And it was a lot to just process. So as you said that, it just threw my mind back to that. That I don't think when I do talk to those that we went to school with, I've heard it, but I don't think we've discussed it enough. Just what we went through, what we felt, what we experienced, what we saw, what we heard. Because
Hmm.
being the minority, like you said, on campus, it was like our safe place. But
Yeah.
outside of campus, you see the looks, the stares.
Oh
You might
yeah.
see somebody kind of clenching a bag a little bit when you're walking through Walmart. You're looking like, I'm trying to get some deodorant. I ain't thinking about you, you
No,
know.
we were
And
at the movie theater one night. So we all went
okay.
to the movie theater. I'm not sure if you were there that night, but a large group, we all went to the movie theater. We went to the movie theater, and the kids were like, "Look, mommy, Africans." Like they had never seen black people in real
Wow.
life before. So stayed at the movie theater, saw the movie. When we came out of the movie theater, the police was there running everyone's license plates.
No, I was not there that night. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because a whole group of us that went, and a lot of us had cars. We were able to,
Hmm.
to commute and to drive around because we could have cars on campus. But they were
Right.
running everyone's license plates that night. And I just feel that it was because we were all there. So, and that was first semester.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Now that is something I didn't know about. So I'm glad we having this conversation because yeah, like I said, I didn't experience anything to that magnitude outside of campus. But just
Hmm.
like you said, stairs, little
Hmm.
things and stuff. But that event on campus, and I believe it was my senior year, that
Yeah.
was a big thing that, and I don't think to me, in thinking back about it, that the campus was not ready to handle it either. They were,
Yeah.
I think the student that made the racial slur, I want to say they were removed from the campus at that time because, like I said, this generation didn't understand peaceful protest. No, you're going to get it as soon as we
Yeah.
catch you. So I think he had to be removed. And they tried to talk. But when I looked, like I said, I was on my way out. But in that town hall meeting they had, to me, they didn't never really address it like they should have. it was kind of like just something to save face. We're going to put something together to show that we are concerned. But to me, they really didn't deal with it. Like what I know now about how you deal with those type of things when they happen, like if the workplace or someone did that at my kid's school, and
Mm-hmm.
I know how to deal with it better. But that to me, that was almost 20 some years ago, was an experience that I could look back and say they did not handle it right. They didn't allow us to express how we felt, or they knew how we felt, but they just kind of mediated in a way to just say, we just going to at least have a conversation to show them that we acknowledge it, but you didn't really deal with it at
Mm-hmm.
that time. So, going into the world, it made me more conscious of that. It doesn't matter that it's not the 50s, the 60s, racism still exists. Um, no matter if I got a degree as a black man, I don't have a criminal record. There are just some people that all they see me as, you a black man. I don't care how smart you is, how accomplished you is, great you got your degree, but
Yeah.
you are still that N-word to me. Now I've definitely experienced it since then on the job, in the community, all type, but I know how to handle it now to that point. It hasn't stopped me. I haven't done anything, but I can appreciate what I went through, because had I not, and now if I hear that on the job, what is my
Yeah.
reaction? I can react in a way to make me lose my job. I learned how to process it and deal with it better. And I was able to understand that what my mom went through, I'm going through it differently. It still exists. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's still a
Yeah.
part of us. And now I'm more equipped to train my children. These are the conversations. My son is going to go to a college where he is definitely the minority.
Mm-hmm.
And we had multiple conversations. Son, get ready. You may experience, oh, dad, I hear you. I said the same thing, son. No, this ain't my generation's different. But no, son, you're going in amongst a different group. So get
Mm-hmm.
ready. If you hear it or they say something that is derogatory or it's a racial slur, how do you deal with it? How do you process it? What type of conversations are you going to have to have? You might get mad. You might want to put hands on somebody. But you got to think. You got to think in that moment how you react, because even though you may be justified in what you're doing, could it damage your education? Could it damage your football scholarship? You got to be very mindful of those decisions. So it's crazy, as my mom was having those conversations with me, I'm literally having with my kids like about a week ago. We were sitting down. Hey guys, I know y'all finna leave for school. It's time to talk. What y'all finna experience? I know y'all think I'm old because that's 20 years, but I thought my mom was old, and I went through the same thing. Gotta have those conversations. So yeah.
Definitely.
So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That man, that was good. That was real good. All right, so go to SIU Edwardsville. That is your home.
Yeah.
I've heard great things about that school. My daughter was even considering it. So why did SIU become your home?
SIU was still kind of close. Like I said, I'm from a small town where there is SIU Carbondale, right? But I didn't want to stay at home, and I think that it is important to get away from your hometown for at least
Mhm.
a little bit, right? To go out and experience something different. With your hometown, you can always go back, if need be, but get out there, see the world, and at least go a couple hours away. It took me three schools to find my home. I mean, Blackburn, Blackburn. I went to John A. Logan for a little bit, got my associate's degree, and then end up at SIU Edwardsville. Edwardsville was close enough, yet far enough away.
Mhm.
I think that access was another reason. Like now kids have college tours and different things like that. With my job, I worked a college. We did a college tour every year to HBCUs. Had I had, the access and different things like that, I probably
Mhm.
would have. I probably
Yes.
would have ended up at a HBCU. To be honest, however, now HBCUs are now popular. A lot of people they're getting the looks, but we also have more access and more information about HBCUs now. So I probably would have chosen an HBCU had I had the access and even the option to go and check them out, like students do now. However, SIU was a great fit. I had family close by. My family is still just 2 hours away, and
Hmm.
um, when I got there, I mean, I kind of fit on campus. It wasn't too large, but it also wasn't too small. And then I'm gonna go back to Blackburn real quick. I ain't have to work, to figure out something with my tuition or whatever they said. And it was a lot cheaper than Blackburn too, because Blackburn was a private college.
Hmm.
Whatever job I worked, the money went back to my pocket.
Hmm.
And that was definitely a blessing. And I will say it was a blessing because through that I ended up working a job on campus after working a couple different ones that afforded me the opportunity to go and tutor in some of the housing projects in East St. Louis and Washington Park. And
Okay.
with that, we would go as soon as the kids were getting out of school, and we would do tutoring. We would go play games with them, different things like that. And I think that's pretty much where I found my love for kids. And and even though I was on a path to my undergrad is criminal justice, with a minor in psychology, and I have my associates in psychology. But I just wanted to do something different with kids. So when I graduated, I did end up working at an all girls juvenile prison
Hmm.
for a little bit. With that, it was a great experience because I got experience with substance abuse counseling and family counseling, a lot of experience of reading and writing social histories and doing soap notes and different therapy sessions with them. That was a great experience from that, but it was short lived. Um, I made the transition. Um, uh, it bothered me to have to lock doors behind me.
Hmm.
Every room I went in, it bothered me. For kids to have like a revolving door, right? The recidivism rate was crazy. Even with the amount of time that I was there, I would see kids, go home, come back, go home, come back.
Right.
And especially when it was time for them to get released and go home, the behavior would skyrocket because they were nervous about going home and they really didn't want to go. So whatever the prison provided, it was some type of safety net. Um, and I was just trying to figure out, like, what is my next route? Like, how do I help kids before they ever get here? Because it seems like once they get here, they get stuck in this spin cycle of
Hmm.
coming out. So even there, I made a transition from there to working at a school. So I started off as a TA, went from TA to working security, went from working security to being school guidance counselor, went from school guidance counselor to being district intervention coordinator, went to district intervention coordinator, and now I'm the executive director of student and community support services in the same district. So um, that chain of events, really, it really changed my life in regards to what I thought I was going to be doing
Hmm.
with my life to versus where I am. And really, I just feel like we see ourselves in places that and God says think bigger, or we're gonna go higher.
Hmm.
So with that, I definitely made a bunch of transitions that I didn't necessarily see myself in at the time. But life said something different, and it's been a great ride.
Absolutely. And as you talked about your journey, those three promotions, and as we look back, we talked about earlier where you didn't want to be a role model,
Mm-hmm.
and now you're in a position over the years where you have been in that position as being a role model, and you're a counselor, educator. I always love talking to educators and counselors, because, of course, I'm not a counselor. My degree's in biology. People always think my degrees in other stuff like psychology or business or something because I've dealt with a lot of children, not just my own. I got so many kids that just gravitate like to me about certain things, helping them with school, life, decisions, all this different stuff. And even you said your degrees in criminal justice. My daughter,
Mhm.
who's preparing to go to Northern, she wants to major in criminal justice, and I think a minor in psychology. She wants to be a juvenile DA because she has a heart to help children. And I love speaking to counselors. I'm not going to bash my kids' counselors today. We'll save that for another session. But the stigma at my kids' high school, where they just graduated from, is what do the counselors do? Because when we ask questions about stuff, and they've added other entities at that school to alleviate responsibilities from the counselors. And I know some people that are counselors, and I always like to hear everybody's interpretation of, of course, you have a job description or what when you were a counselor that you did do, but then you may have done some things above and beyond that as well in order to help those, especially your experience, what you went through by working in a juvenile prison. So, with your transcendence across these three positions, like as a counselor, how do you see it, or what is your vision of what you think? I don't care if we're in the state of Illinois. I'm sure you know a lot about the educational system and different things in Illinois. I know you're down there near Edwardsville. I'm up here, south suburbs of Chicago, but I go to the school board meetings. I see the ISBE reports. I see all this stuff. You know, what's affecting the education, the behavior of the children, all these studies and reports and all this stuff. As someone in your position over the years, just what do you, because I don't think just like if you said, well, down here we do counseling different versus what you all do up there. But I feel, and I'm not a counselor, is there a possible standard? And I know there's funding, there's all type of paradigms and things that could affect it, resource. I get it. But when I talk to counselors, I feel like, what is that standard? Is it one that we all should be doing this to a certain extent? So I would just like to hear your experience, and even as you go into these other positions, how you affect not only the kids, but even those that you have to train and teach to work that may be under you and stuff like that, that you have to direct. And because not only counseling the children, but other adults that are working with the children. How have you just, how do you see it from your point of view and in that field? And just like I say, through those different promotions, or even the impact and the change you've been able to make with it?
Okay, so let me start and back up just a second. So my undergrad is criminal justice. I have a master's in school counseling, professional
Mm-hmm.
counseling, and then I also have my admin degree as well. So I didn't just kind of
Mm-hmm.
skip. Um, but in regards to school counseling looks different from my standpoint. I work in urban education, and with counseling, we have an open door policy in the district that I'm in. So when I was in high school, my counselors, I had to fight to see my counselors. I remember Edward SIU-E, the recruiter came in, and I kept saying, well, can I see, I want to sit in, for the recruiter to be there. And I had to fight with my counselor for to be able to sit in for the recruiter. It was like they were only taking the top 20% of the students and working with them. And then everyone else, they just made sure that their schedule was in line with what the standards were for graduation. Right. That
Mm-hmm.
was my high school experience. I cannot tell you what my counselor's name was in high school. I can't tell you how many counselors worked there. I can't tell you too much of anything about the counselors at the high school that I graduated from, right? Um, all I can tell you is that one negative situation that I had where I had to beg to see if I can sit in, when a college came to visit. That's the only thing that I can tell you about them.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went to school to be a counselor, I said, I'm not going to be the counselor that I had, right? I want to make sure that we get we encompass everybody, right? When you think about minority populations are usually underserved. especially
Mm-hmm.
when you are thinking about what the next steps are, right? And going back to my family saying you have to go to college, right? Our parents are still saying you have to go to college, but no one is saying, hey, if you major in this and get this degree, when you graduate, you might not have a job waiting on you, right? Or you're going to have a
No.
job and you're never going to be able to pay back your student loans because the job that you are the degree that you're getting and the job that you're going to get after high school, you're not going to be able to pay your student loans back because you're not going to make anything
Mm-hmm.
from it. Or if I get a degree in this, what am I going to actually do with it? Right. And that's something that I started talking to the students about, right? You can go into this, however, what exactly are you going to do with it? Right. And just kind of working with them in regards to it. I actually work in Missouri. With Missouri, we have a Missouri model of guidance. So we have specific things that we do have to touch on, right? We do the individual planning, we do the group, we do the classroom lessons, we do the responsive services where if something happens or if there's a crisis, different things. So there are specific things that we have to work on. We do individual career plans, different things like that. So we make sure that they are taken care of as a whole. However, when you think about trauma and community trauma and the things that some of our kids, especially when you think about inner city and urban education, have faced, it is a
Mm-hmm.
lot. Even with my district, we have brought in a lot of people to help take some of the pressure off of the counselors. And really, it's because counseling has become it's gotten to the point where we need more professional counselors and other resources within the school, because school counseling does not encompass all of the mental health challenges that we're now seeing. And after COVID,
Mm-hmm.
it's been COVID reset life, right? The
Mm-hmm.
students that showed up after COVID look totally different than the students that we've seen before, right?
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
I mean, they do. So when you think about social anxiety, right? Kids not really talking to anyone. During the time that we were on COVID, right? Just using technology to talk, no face-to-face contact, different things like that. We now have some challenges that we haven't necessarily seen before. Depression, anxiety, um, what else? Just a lot of different things. And then on top of it, community trauma, right? What else is going on in the community, right? I mean, you're in Chicago suburbs. When you think about the different things that's going on, you know, our kids are getting killed in the street, right?
Yes, they are.
Things are going on in the neighborhoods. Things are going on within the homes, right? When you think about abuse, domestic violence, different things. So kids are coming with all of that, and now they're exposed to things that we were not exposed to. They have little computers in their hand, and they have access to everything, right? And all of
Mm-hmm.
that makes a difference because, I mean, when you think about it, their frontal lobe is not fully developed yet, and they're taking in all of this information that they cannot sort. Um, Suicide rates are through the roof, especially amongst Black boys. We're at crisis level now, and a lot of people are not even talking about that. Our suicidal ideation rate is up, and we're actually seeing an increase in our homicidal ideation rate as well. And just kids being able to sort through their emotions and different things, it's a struggle. And it's something now that traditionally school counselors are having a challenge keeping up with amongst, you know, in they're having trouble keeping up with it. Um, and following all the state standards and guidelines that they have to follow as well.
Mm-hmm.
But what I will say, within my district, we do an amazing job at making sure that all of our students are taken care of, and making sure we have an open door policy where we're not excluding anyone. Anyone that needs to see their counselor, they can see their counselor. We make sure that we talk to each student. A lot of times we're in the hallways. We're going to their games. We're going to we're going to any sporting event, any after school activity. We're going to parades. We're showing up in ways that I know I didn't, my counselor didn't show up in those different arenas. But we're making sure that we're visible and that we're building the relationships, because relationship building is number one and is key, especially amongst African American populations and populations of people of color. Relationships are everything. And there
Mm-hmm.
are a lot of barriers and different things that you have to break down, even in order to get them in a place where they can come to school and learn. Is so much going on, in the background. If I'm coming to school and I am starving and I have not ate over this weekend, right? When I get to school on Monday, you may give me a small Pop-Tart or something for breakfast, but I'm still hungry, right? I might not be able to function. So what do, right? We keep snacks. We make sure the kids eat. We make sure that we have every single resource that they can possibly think of. If they need shoes, we have shoes. If they need clothes, if they need a new book bag, if they need their clothes washed, if they need a therapeutic resource, we have pretty much everything, where we are making sure that we take care of the whole child. So, so yeah, I know that there are places out there that's still, kind of missing the mark, maybe, as far as their entire population goes. But
Mm-hmm.
my goal, and when I coach people into, these positions, is to make sure that we are taking care of these babies, and that if they have a need that needs to be met, if we don't have a resource for it, then my goal is to see if we can find a resource for it, that will be either free or affordable.
Like you just gave so much in that part of your conversation. I definitely, in speaking with you just now, another guest I had that's a counselor, I've learned to give counselors more grace just from the point of view of a parent. Like you brought up mental health. I don't
Mhm.
think we talk about it enough with our children. My kids, current high school, we're talking about they're trying to get professional mental health counselors to come to the
Mhm.
school because they're understanding some of the stuff we're dealing with our kids about mental health. As a parent, my two kids that are going to college graduated eighth grade in the pandemic. As a parent, it affected us. But I'm just seeing, I sat down, had a conversation with my son. He was doing an essay for a scholarship, and he decided to talk about his mental health, what he went through.
Mhm.
Now I've seen my son talk. I was there with him through it all, but he didn't really vocalize at the time what he was going through mentally. He's just expressed it almost 2 years later. And I said, son, you never. He was like, Dad, 'cause I was trying to process it. I didn't know who to go to. I
Mhm.
didn't know what to say. But I'm your dad. But then you got to understand some stuff. I'm not a professional. I'm not licensed to do this. So sometimes you may have, even as parents, we need those resources because I may have to take my kid to somebody because there's only so far I can go. And a lot of time, even in the Black community, we feel like, oh, I ain't going to see no counselor. And I used to
Stigma.
be that person. Yeah,
Mhm.
but I have learned no, sometimes you do need to sit and go talk to somebody that's a professional that can look at all the ins and outs of this, and it can really help you process. It's a conversation. It's them understanding and realizing what you're going through and help you to be able to deal with it. And one session may not be enough. So I've learned not to be against counseling because growing up in the community I did as a kid, your mom, your dad, your grandma was your counselor, or sometimes different YMCA's. It might have been somebody at the church. It's all type of people. But to
Yeah.
go down and sit with a counselor, I mean, oh, you crazy as a Black person. No, I need somebody to talk to. So I'm dealing with something that I don't know how to deal with. And I've
Yes.
had suicidal thoughts. I've had damaging thoughts. Or you brought up the point a kid may go through the weekend, ain't ate all week. So the reason why I come to school frustrated and angry, and that could lead to violence, fights, or other things, it ain't even I'm an angry person. I'm hungry and I don't know how to tell nobody. I haven't eaten all weekend.
Yep.
I didn't even think that through my kids and talking to different administrators. I spoke with a gentleman at my kid's school that we was my son came to live and we was doing stuff. He was like, I keep snacks in my office. He said, you'll be surprised how many kids come here. They don't know where they're
Hmm.
gonna sleep every night. They don't know where their next meal. They love our kids' school. Everybody's on a free lunch program. They get breakfast, lunch. They do a summer lunch program, all this, which I think is wonderful. Because as a parent, when you got your kids, sometimes you can focus just, I'm gonna focus on me and mine. But being a part of the PTSO, I'm seeing everybody. And I'm literally sitting there like, my kids are going to school with kids that maybe slept outside last night, or I had sleep on this friend's couch. While my
Yep.
kids come in and I'm blessed to give them a dinner by the grace of God, you're sitting in class with somebody that did not eat dinner last night and they can't wait to get to lunch because that may be their last meal. That
Yep.
plays on you mentally, emotionally, physically. And when I became more knowledgeable of that, I'm like, I would have never thought, because I've never been in that position. But now that I have that awareness, and as you're saying, the counselors, all these other resources, we can't do this alone. It's going to take
Exactly.
all of us. And I love what you said about that support. That's something that the PTSO, we stood at one of the last board meetings and we suggested we need to see more administrators, teachers at events for the kids. Not saying some people don't go, but we need a bigger presence because that's helping these children. Because kids were telling us, I had kids that would come to our meetings. I don't know who my principal is. I don't know who my
Hmm.
counselor is. I don't know who this person is. What do you mean? Why are you all not visible? Now, I can't be in the school with you physically, but these kids are telling us they don't know who you are. But
Hmm.
you're this person that's supposed to be there to help them, this resource, this getaway. And it was blowing my mind. When I went to high school, did I know my counselor? Yeah, they didn't help me with nothing. I pretty much figured out college and my next part of my life on my own. But I knew my principal, I knew my dean. But the way my kid's school is, I don't know who that person is. Who are they? Or they meet them for the first time. I don't know you. I don't know the board people. I don't know these people. But I say the only way y'all can get known, y'all got to be more active. Y'all got to go to the games, got to go to this. I mean, I can't force y'all to, but it's just a suggestion because these kids are saying, maybe if I knew who you were, I would come to your office. I would come use your resources. But if you're showing me you don't care, why should I care? And these kids are suffering, they're going through. So just to hear about what you all are doing, I'm excited. I almost wish I could bring you up here to some of our things in the South Suburb because we have these sessions now called Black Man Speaks and Girl Speaks, where we bring in people like you to speak to our young ladies at the school, to speak to the young men, and to talk about all the things that you are bringing up. And I think it's starting to grow. I was a
Hmm.
part of it one year where I got to come in to speak to a lot of the, as you would say, troubled youth in the school that had issues, was going in and stuff, been suspended. But what they did this year, they opened it up to all students. Cause there was a separation. Okay, we only need these people to come in and speak for those kids that's got in trouble. But what about the ones that maybe I don't have a behavior issue, but I got a mental issue? I'm dealing with mental
Hmm.
health. So I'm not
Yeah.
acting up. I ain't being suspended. I'm not fighting. I don't have an addiction. I'm not drinking, smoking in the school, but I got some stuff going on up here. Who talks to me? So I
Right.
will commend the school that they open it up and say it's to all students now. We just got to bring the people in to come
Hmm.
speak to these students. And my kids went and said some of the sessions were good. They learned a lot. They even had Inky Johnson come to the school last year. And I thought that was big to have him there as a motivational speaker to talk to the kids because you need that. And as I'm hearing you talk, I'm like, Dad, we should book her. We should have her come up to the school. I don't know if you want to travel that far up 55 to come holler at the students in my district. But just listening to you, if you ever interested and that comes up, let me know. Because just
Okay.
this little snippet you shared, I would love to have you talk at the district that I'm in. Because I have one child left in the district, but you shared some stuff that you would be a great person to do that. But so I don't know what your schedule's like. Like I said, I don't know if you want to drive that far 55 to do that. But if you are interested, when it comes up again, I'm gonna let you know. And if you
Okay.
could come, we would love to have you.
Okay. Let me
So
know.
yeah, so absolutely. So thank you for sharing that. You've definitely opened my eyes into anyone that's listening. Because we definitely need that support for our counselors. And so let's get into more of you. One of the
Okay.
things that I always like to people, for those that are a part of orgs, you are a
Mm-hmm.
Delta. Love to hear
Yes.
people talk about their orgs. We both know a Blackburn had none of that action. Don't know what that's like, So you went to a school. Did you pledge while you were in college?
I did. I did. I pledged undergrad, spring '03.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And what
Right.
made you do it? What like not I don't want to say made you do it. Why? What was the drive decision? 'Cause I've heard different stories. All my
Mm-hmm.
family, we're all part of orgs, or somebody was a cool thing to do. I like to hear everybody's motivation or interest or curiosity about why they joined the org.
So growing up in the church, we had some church members that stood out to me. So we had we had members from all of the different organizations. However, Delta Sigma Theta always stood out to me. So I knew at a young age that if I had the opportunity, that I would become a Delta. When I got to Blackburn, of course, there were no organizations like you just said. A couple of my friends and I, we used to talk about it, different things. So I knew that once I transferred and that I found, my stable place, that I would be seeking out to make sure that the organization was on campus. So before I even got to Edwardsville, I knew that the Deltas were on campus, and that was something that I would be interested in. So when I got to campus, I started going to all of the different organizations, programs. My friend groups and I, we would, even though we wanted different things, right? We chose different organizations. Some of us are in the same organization. However, we went as groups. It is always a
Hmm.
thing where you don't necessarily let anyone know what you're really interested in until it's time for rush, and then you go to those specialized programs. But I did seek out that organization, and it was definitely a great choice for me. I learned a lot, gained a new family, in a sense, definitely a sisterhood. It's 11 of us on my line. We're all pretty tight, still to this
Hmm.
day. And it's really been a great experience. I think through going through undergrad, um, it I think it was pretty much perfect timing for me, to join the organization.
Good. Hey man, shouts out to the Deltas. I mean, I'm an AKA guy myself, That's most of the ones I know are AKAs.
Yeah.
I've worked with a lot of young ladies that are AKAs, so
Mhm.
I shared their experience and love them. So that as far as they're my favorites, I love Deltas. Y'all right next. Met a lot of Deltas in my life. So, Deltas, if y'all listening, please don't get mad, don't hate. But I like the AKAs. Not so much it's like the org is different because of the people. I've had more relationships with them and working, uh, talking to them, different things I've done. I've probably met more AKAs, Deltas. I know those that are part of Sigma, Gamma Rho, all of them. And then, of course, guys, I know all different. Most of the males I know are Omegas, most of them.
Mhm.
And one of my best friends, he pledged after grad, tried to talk me into it. I was like, nah, I
Mhm.
can't do that. He's very active, in what he does. And he shared his story on why he did and things like that. And had other friends try to ask me to do it. I was like, I just don't think I have enough time to do it. I just don't. So But my kids have both discussed it, have talked about it, asked a lot
Mhm.
of questions, and I try to connect them with people that can give them information. But I like to hear everybody's story and reasoning as to why they did it, because it's always risky. Because that's one element of college. Even if it would have been in Blacksburg, I'm not saying I would have joined or not, but it just would have been nice to see more of it. My daughter that's in Illinois State, she said, "Oh, Dad, they go on the quad, and they be Dad, what? How was that for
Mhm.
you in college?" I have no idea, honey. We weren't doing
Uh-huh.
that on the quad. I don't even what quad. Like
Real
it's an experience
quiet.
I can't talk about. But she
Real
sees it all the
quiet.
time. So yeah, those. So I'm grateful that my children are going to be able to have those experiences. That there are some things that I didn't get that they're going to get, which I think is dope. So I think that's a part of the college life. So thank you for sharing that as well. Another thing
Yeah.
about you
Big
is I
big
seen
shout
posted on
out.
social
Yeah.
media. Oh,
Go
you
ahead. I'm
hear me now?
sorry. I was just gonna say big shout out to all the NPHC organizations. I love all my D9 family, and you just have to find the right organization that fits you.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
Go
and thank
ahead.
you for
Go
sharing
for
that
it.
as perfect statement. Absolutely.
Hmm.
You posted on your Facebook that you are now part of this group. I don't know if I get the name wrong. I know it's part of the Christian counseling group.
Haven of Light Christian Counseling.
And yes,
Hmm.
and as I saw that, thought that was interesting. What is that group about, and who are those services for? Is there a target group, target audience? What is it that you all are doing?
Yeah, so we are actually a group of therapists, a group of Black female therapists, and we welcome all that need therapeutic services. It is Christian based counseling. However, if you need some type of therapeutic service, then we have a multitude of people that can assist. If you're looking for a male therapist, we do have a referral list that we can send out. But finding the correct therapist is just as important as finding the correct doctor, right? To make sure that all of your needs are taken care of. Sometimes you may have a therapist that fits on the first try, and everything is great. You move forward with your services. If you have a therapist that does not fit, that doesn't mean that you just stop seeking out therapy. That just means that you find the right fit for you. And just a piece on just therapy overall. A lot of times your jobs have something called EAP, which is an employee assistance program,
Hmm.
where you can get your therapeutic services through your job. Some jobs offer 3 free counseling sessions. Some offer 5 free counseling sessions. And those counseling sessions are until you get a fit, right? So let's just say you come to me, you see me 2 times, and then you realize on that second time, at the end of the second time, we might not be the best fit, right? And that you want to go to a male therapist, just simply because you're a male, right? And maybe a male will understand some of the challenges and different things that you have a little bit better. Then most EAPs will start you off fresh with a male counselor and until you find that fit as well.
Hmm.
So yeah, therapeutic fit is important. I got my counseling degree in 2010, and I just decided now I want to go ahead and make sure that I step into the professional realm. It was something that was always a goal of mine, but then once I started school counseling, and after I started school counseling, I started coaching. And then from coaching, I went to reffing, and then I had some bodybuilding and everything else in between there. It kind of got lost, but it was something that I always knew that I wanted to come back to. Like I said, I started
Hmm.
off with substance abuse counseling, family counseling, different things like that. So I knew that I wanted to go back to it. So now, the opportunity was afforded to me. So I'm in it. So, and it's been a great experience thus far.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And I think we need more of that. And thank you for giving a shout out to the EAP program. That's something I know I have in my job that we always try to tell our staff members about to utilize it, even to the point like it's extended to my family. I always
Mhm.
even tell my kids, we have an employee assistance program. If there's some stuff that I tell my children, you talk to me about that, me or your mom, we're not professionals at it. We're limited in what we can say. We have a program through my job that's free where we can get you connected. That you don't have to be ashamed of it. Get the help.
Mhm.
The help is available. You don't have to
Mhm.
deal with this stuff. You don't have to be frustrated. You don't have to be boggled down. You don't have to be depressed. You don't have to have bad thoughts about what you're going through. That it's so important to talk. As you spoke about being an introvert, that's something
Mhm.
that I like being an introvert personally. I if I could not talk, I would not. But I've
Mhm.
learned that there are times in my life that it's necessary for me to talk. There are some situations that I have to go to someone and have a conversation so I can process it. So I know how to come out of being an introvert just to be able to speak to someone. That is the premise behind this podcast, this section of it, to have conversations that someone would hear what we're talking about. That if they hear this, they may say, wow, let me see if my job has an EAP. Let me see if
Definitely.
somewhere close has a counseling service like what Deidre is talking about, because I need to
Mhm.
talk to someone. This is why this information is getting out. This is why I want to bring certain people onto my podcast to let people know there's help out there. There could be somebody, could be your next door neighbor, and they could be the one to help you. Like, I know you said you came from a small town, you're close where you live, and somebody could be living around you, be like, I never even knew she did all of this.
Yeah.
And it could help somebody else. And that's my goal. I want people to see that there's help. We don't have to sit here and suffer in silence. We don't have to
Definitely.
go through. A lot of time your mind will tell you, you're going through by yourself. Nobody else is going through. And if you tell somebody, they're going to think you're crazy. That's not true. There's a lot of
Mhm.
help. And you may find out after talking to somebody, we going through the same thing. But
Yes.
you're at a stage in your life where you overcame it. How can you
Mhm.
help me get through what I'm dealing with? You're the perfect person to talk to. So man,
Yeah.
I appreciate you for talking about that because it's needed, and we need to know that.
Yeah. Let me say
It's kind
this
of,
real quick.
yes,
Like
go ahead, absolutely.
I'm a therapist with a therapist, right? I'm a therapist and I have a therapist, and you can have Jesus and a therapist too. Like it's not one or the other or, anything like that. They coincide together to make sure that your life is healthy, right? And you're healthy from the inside because like I said, I am in a helping field where this not only is it hard work, this is heart work, right? That
Hmm.
we're doing. And with that, sometimes times get hard, right? It gets rough. And with that, you want to be able to fill your cup because you cannot continue to pour from an empty cup. If there's someone out there that you need to speak to, if you do the work, right? On yourself, because you have to live in this body, right? You have to deal with you, and you have to
Hmm.
be the best person that you can be, not only for yourself, but for your family and the community and whoever, whatever population you serve.
Wonderful. And you just made a statement. You're gonna make some church folks mad. You can have Jesus and a therapist. I'm a believer in that, but
Yeah,
that is a taboo subject
it is.
amongst the church today. That's a whole nother interview we could talk about. That's a whole separate subject. But I'm glad that you said it because it needs to be said more. Because one thing my pastor talks about the church is amazing some of the things he will teach and talk about that in most churches, even from when I was a kid to now, that they don't want to discuss.
Mhm.
But mental health and therapists is something that I've heard him talk about. He says it. Sometimes you got to go talk to somebody and don't be
Yeah.
ashamed. Don't and being under his leadership, growing up in church all my life, I'm like, these were hush hush. You don't talk about that. Get
Mhm.
your Bible and read it and pray. No, I need to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And it's okay for me that it doesn't decrease my faith or my belief in Christ because I'm having to sit down with someone. So I just appreciate you saying it.
Mhm.
And that could be a whole like we're gonna have to run it back and have you on here some more this cannot just be it because you've given us too much. And I'm glad you stand what you're saying because I'm thinking about having to running it back with some of my guests that I've had in the past because I'm seeing some
Mhm.
things they're doing that I'm like, what you did maybe when I had you on the podcast 5, 6 months ago, you transitioned into something or you said something that we didn't have enough time. So I got to run it back and bring you back on because there's more to this. So you're definitely going to come back for a lot of different things. You know, if you would do me the gracious honor of coming back, I hope you don't reject me
Yeah.
and come back.
Yeah. No, I'll come back.
Awesome. All right. Before we close out,
Okay.
last two questions for you. To this, up until this date and time in your life, it could be now, could have been in the past. What is your biggest accomplishment?
I think my biggest accomplishment is stepping into the person, the role, and the responsibility of what God would have me to be. That's my biggest accomplishment, right? Like I said before, I was kind of scattered, and trying to figure out what it is that I wanted to do. And I think that, what I wanted to do may have been in conflict with what my purpose in life was.
Mhm.
And I think my purpose is to help others. And I feel that that's my greatest accomplishment.
Wonderful. Now that you gave us your greatest accomplishment, what is your biggest failure? And with that, it's either what did you learn from it or how did you overcome it?
Okay, so I'm gonna say this, and you may not be happy with my answer, but um, I am grateful for all my failures. Um, because had I not had those failures, I would not have learned, and I would not be in the space that I am now. When I think about, I'll give you a scenario of a job that I had. I loved pieces of the job, and on the other side, I strongly disliked other pieces. Right.
Hmm.
Um, with that, the job and the experience that I had, I realized that everyone is not for you, and that there can be some people against you that are for no reason, right? It can be a little bit of anything. So I just always try to make sure that, when I have the opportunity to hire someone, I take the opportunity to grow them and to make sure that they're successful, right? And that if they're in a space where they are not successful, it's not because I didn't give them all of the tools and the information that they needed. Sometimes you'll get into a space where people um, want to see others downfall, and they don't necessarily grow people the way that they should. And I just make sure that, especially when I have young people that look like me, um, I take the time to invest in them to make sure that they have the things that they need. So, with the job, I can consider the job, a failure. However, had I not gone through that experience, I probably wouldn't take as much time and, dedication to making sure that I try to build people and grow people the way that I do.
Good, good. Thank you. And I like what you said. I hope those
Mhm.
that are listening like what you
Yeah.
said, because I can stand with you on that. That's how I look at my failures. I always tell uh my staff at work, kid,
Hmm.
I'm not afraid to fail. I don't like failing,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
it's an opportunity for me to learn, to grow, to help others. There's something through it. You know, I definitely wouldn't be where I am in life if I did not fail. And I'd always try to tell my children, failure is a part of life.
Hmm.
You're going to fail. You will not succeed at everything. It's about you getting back up after that failure. Don't stay in that low place too long. Sometimes failure hurts. It's
Hmm.
discouraging. But how do you come back from it? What's your bounce back? What's your rebound? How do you get back up from that failure? Don't stay in that sunken place because some failures can take you down to the depths, man. but
Yeah.
it's like, what do you do after that? Well, what's
And
next? Just
sometimes it's a
don't be there
pivot.
forever.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a pivot, right? Sometimes you walk into a roadblock and you weren't supposed to be walking down that road anyway, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes, you get to that point and you should have turned a mile ago. You had the opportunity, but you wanted to do it this way, or this happened. So you're just walking in the wrong direction anyway, right? I think that in life things will repeat themselves if you don't learn from them.
Hmm.
So I always try to take the time when I am in that space to reflect, to make sure that I've learned something from it, right? I try not to look at my cup as half empty or half full. I try to look at my cup as overflowing. And with that, no matter what happens or what takes place, there is always a lesson. There's always a lesson in it.
Absolutely. Wow. Just, I'm glad we had this conversation. And I'm glad that you were a part of the podcast today. I've learned so much about you, about so many other things. And that's why I said we're going to have to run it back, and we're
Okay.
going to have to bring you on for other sessions when you have time, because this is just great. Grateful I met you over 24 years ago at Blackburn College.
Yeah, you can't
And
be telling people that big number. That's a big that's too big of a number for us. We're young out here.
yeah, for real talk, yeah,
Yeah,
we are definitely
that
young,
is a
but
big, yeah.
I'm so grateful to, as you said, at Blackburn, I have so many great relationships, so many people that I can call on for my podcast. Like I said, to my knowledge, I haven't had no famous people. Like, I can't call the, you see different podcasts, all these famous people. But what I've learned, and I'm not saying I don't know people who are doing great things that are internationally known, but I want people that, like you said, that's your next door neighbor. That
Mhm.
person that works at your school, that person that may be in your family, those people that are those hometown heroes that are making the most impact that you don't know about. That's
Yeah.
my target audience. If God sees fit for me to have some bigger name people on here by society, then I believe that time will happen. But my prayer was, Lord, let me bring the people on that I've known over these last 24 years, whether it's from school, it
Mhm.
could be from church. It could be people I grew up with, people I play sports with, that I see doing great things in their communities, in their jobs. I want to bring them on and have them tell their stories. I want them to drop wisdom. I want them to drop knowledge and help others, because they're right here in front of us, and we're not always hearing their stories. That's who I want to bring in. So thank you for
Mhm.
doing me this gracious honor.
Thanks
And
for
just
having me.
if people want to follow you, want to know more about you, where can they look for you on social media, anything like that? I know you share stuff about the different counsel you're doing. I'm not saying you want more followers, but I'm trying to put people on because they helping others. I'm just saying, it's up
Yeah,
to you. You say,
let me say this. My social media, I usually keep it private. Um,
hmm.
yeah, I usually keep it private. However, I will have something coming pretty soon, some type of platform that flows and coincides with the mental health space, with counseling, different things like that. And it'll be everything from just kind of discussion topics to different facts and you know things for mental health and counseling. So
We'll take it. We
yeah,
will take it in your
yeah.
professional capacity. I get it. Hey, nothing wrong
Mhm.
with having a private life. I'm trying to, well, mine ain't as private as it used to be because of this platform, the podcast. But so people will see this podcast episode publicly, just let you know
Okay.
beforehand. So it might be the only time they see you public, but we'll take it, for
Okay.
what we can. So I want to thank you for being a part. Remember, to all my listeners out there, New Beginnings Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, please like, share, comment, be a part of it. If you know somebody needs to hear this, share it with them and let them know. Once again, thank you to Deirdre for all that you said and all that you've done. Thank you for being a part. Until next time, everybody, this is Jermaine Jackson, New Beginnings Podcast, Celebration and Conversation. We'll see y'all next time. Y'all have a great one. And, all right.